Finance Subcommittee to order. Quick roll call. Derek Gracia. Here. Rich. Here. Charles Sullivan. Here. Katie Calita. Also the Lakeville Board of Selectmen. You guys want to open up your meeting?
Sure. Lakeville Board of Selectmen, January, what is it, 16th? Open. LakeCAM is recording.
He is.
Rich LaCamera present, sitting with you, John Partley, Leah Fabian.
Anybody else recording the meeting? All right. First on the agenda, the acceptance of minutes for September 19th. I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make that motion. Make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstention?
Abstention.
Motion passes.
Steve, Steve, before you know this, do you want to invite Joyce and Sherry up to the table if they want to? No?
You good?
Good.
They're being shy.
There are seats available if you want to.
I'm not on the board anymore, so I'll just sit in the back and just be a representative. Thank you, appreciate it.
I try that, but I never get to do that. So I understand.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the new member from the Lakeville Finance Committee, which will...
He'll be here next week, next month.
Thank you. Sorry, Steve.
All right, we'll jump right into old business FY20 update.
In your packet, I provided the numbers as of January 14th for both revenue and expenditures. We're on target right now. As we go into the winter, we are monitoring overtime and the cost for snow removal. So if anything changes, same thing with utilities, especially oil. If anything changes in the near future, I'll let you know. Also in the packet is the FY20 assessment sheet. There have been no changes since our last meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a change in October. We had updated numbers for circuit breaker and also school choice. So you can see that there was additional revenue of almost $32,000 for circuit breaker. And then school choice, we did not have as many students as we were projecting enrolling, so it was down $90,000.
Anything update on supplemental?
They passed an FY19 supplemental budget. They're supposed to be sending out funds in February, but we have not heard what that amount is going to be. Impacting the district will be circuit breaker and regional transportation. Once I have those numbers, I'll be able to share those at the next meeting.
Should see some.
There should be something, but I don't know what it's going to be right now. The state hasn't provided those numbers.
Any questions on FY20? Okay. And just to clarify, the supplemental, we don't have any information as of yet?
No. Just that it's passed.
And are we hoping to have that in time for the budget presentation in February? Is it?
Well, they're hoping to release funds in February for FY19. So those funds, one circuit breaker will go into the revolving fund, and then regional transportation would be closed into E&D. But I don't know what those numbers are, and I don't want to speculate.
So it could be part of our February 13th, Steve.
If they're out.
Okay. Any other questions on FY20 before moving on? I'll move on to new business, FY21. A couple different things we want to do is where the status is to date. Also clarify some confusion as far as the process, the dates, what we have today, what we don't have today, and what we're expecting. And then also want to have a conversation about warrant articles and due dates so that we're all on the same page there.
Sure. So in your packet, I just gave a brief overview of where we are to date. District administration has met, and we've gone through all the units, so for all the building principals and all of our other departments such as facilities, technology, and student services. We have a preliminary budget put together, but we're kind of on hold until we receive our state numbers, which will be out next week. Once we have that, I will update the budget document to get it ready for our February 5th release. We are also on hold waiting for health insurance information. Those should come out next week as well. As many of you know, there has been an ed reform on how Chapter 70 is being funded and how schools will be funded in FY21. I do not have any information to date on how that is going to impact our district. Most likely that funding is going to be targeted to the gateway communities in the cities in Massachusetts. I do not see us getting a great deal of money in this reform, but once I have more information, I can give it to the board. Also in your packet is just kind of the timeline for us going forward. Right now, I have planned for a beginning of June town meeting for both towns. I know that there's been some conversation that Lakeville might be moving theirs up. If you are moving it up, please just let me know. So
June 1st.
Oh, it's gonna be June 1st? Okay, so this schedule should continue to work.
I'd still like to talk about the schedule.
Okay.
I think from past experience in the last, number of years, everything is done at the last minute. And we're all scurrying around trying to get our budgets together. And a lot of times the information is not available to the day of town meeting, which is not a good thing, as far as the public is concerned. So I would like to, our meeting is June 1st. We had to move it because of a conflict with something else. But I don't know why it would take so long to get the budget approved by the school committee on April 29th. If you're going to have the preliminary budget available in a couple of weeks and the state aid numbers are going to be available next week, I think 3 months is way too long for the budget process, and that's just my feeling. So
I can speak to it, I guess, briefly. This is the timeline that it's been historically, and April 29th is the last date that it can be voted on. That's just why it's there as a benchmark. The regional school district their committee has to vote by then. If the school committee would like to change it.
I believe in the last couple of years, we've actually voted before that date.
Right.
So.
Rich, do you have an idea? Do you have a time frame that you'd rather see?
well, I'd like to
At
see
least you
it.
give them
I'd
back
like
to
to
the
see
committee.
it moved up at least a couple of weeks. Because like I said, it's the month before town meeting is chaotic. You're holding meetings and trying to get things approved and so forth. So the middle of April, I think, would be okay.
Well, just to add to this, part of the role of this board is to provide a recommendation. And getting a quorum for this board the last couple of years has been the challenge of that. The school committee still goes reviewing each, and last year we actually reviewed all the departments over 2 meetings, which is why we were able to at least approve the ceiling of that and obviously making some changes along the way. So I don't see an issue if we follow precedent the last couple of years of doing that a couple of weeks beforehand. But I think requirement is this board being able to meet and having that discussion along the way. Derek.
Oh, excuse me.
I have no issue with that request. My problem comes in the fact that, and I actually agree with Mr. LaCAM, it's a big rush. We go into the town meeting and sometimes we're still trying to finalize these things. However, how is pushing it up gonna solve that? Because I see the rush right until that date as well. So I don't think we're gonna be any more prepared by pushing it up unless the towns can, finalize their budget along with us. But, I mean, I haven't seen the process be able to play out any sooner. I'd love to see that, but I'm concerned that we're pushing it forward pushing it up is only gonna do what you're trying to avoid anyway, in that last minute not having the public prepared or giving them the information ahead of time. We don't do it now, pushing it up 2 weeks unless the process is gonna change on the town side as well, then we can have that discussion, but I don't know how that's gonna get fixed right now.
Mr. Chairman, I would say on the town side, we're pushing. We have our budgets. I think we got everybody's budget in except for one right now.
Yep.
And our plan is that during the month of February and by early March, really, to have everything all together. And that happened at the town level too, Derek. I mean, everything was pushed and pushed and pushed out. And, you know, it's not like the budget numbers, I mean, the state aid numbers are not going to change significantly because last year the state didn't finalize their budget until July 31st. So we're waiting around, hoping things are going to get better, and they don't.
Right. And then that was going to be my next point. The reason why it's dragged out is because our legislators haven't approved the budget. And then we ran into a situation a few years back where we had the dispute and the friendly lawsuit because the numbers that we went forward with, Lakeville disputed them after the fact, and there's a whole history there. But that would be another concern I have going forward. We set the budget, and now we run into the same situation we did several years ago with that, you know, that scenario we had with the lawsuit.
I don't know about that, but, you know.
Steve?
Yes.
Hi. If I may, I don't know if you want to have Freetown come before I just...
One of the issues I see, you say, well, have the budgets already, is from a town point of view, we do have to have, before we finalize our budget for the town, we have to have school numbers. So to say, Derek, that we should be, you know, doing by a certain time, a lot of our budgeting ends up playing on where are we with the school budget, okay? And so to that point, I think it's to say that a town should finalize its budget at the same time the school does, it's going to be impossible.
We actually, like Lakeville, we actually have our first working copy of the budget.
Right.
All the departments have submitted their budgets where I will spend next month, well, a week or so next month going through with the department heads and starting to take a look at their expenditures, and then we make the presentation to the board. Each of the departments comes in. So March is basically when we start really getting into the nitty-gritty of the budget.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, we actually approved a budget before the public meeting. Mm-hmm. Right, so which by this schedule is April 8th, and I think that's something that we can help push the full school committee to have that. Yep. Right, so to do that, I think that's what we have done the last couple of years. So obviously, that would be the ceiling at that point.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we could, you know, structurally we could do it. You could approve the budget February 5th would be ideal for the superintendent, right? When I present my budget, you vote to approve that. And, somehow I'm not sure that's probably going to fly, and understandably so. But I mean, really, the window, once the budget's been presented, obviously we make some adjustments. I can share with you from my previous district, where I was superintendent for 10 years, it was typical that the budget was voted at the public hearing, after the hearing that night, which would be April 8th, within that time frame. I also have had the budget voted, not the night of the preliminary budget, but within a time frame the school committee would vote, taking action, knowing that adjustments could be made, just to kind of start the process. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, to Steve, to your point, absolutely this group making a recommendation, getting that preliminary budget to you as soon as possible, and make, you know, showing some sort of support towards it or recommendation so then the boards can act has always been the struggle, right? Pulling everyone together, getting a recommendation from this joint board, and then getting back and when meetings are. I don't think it's unreasonable to move up the time frame from a school department perspective, regardless of whatever the numbers are, right? I mean, we actually in the past, up until a year ago, were submitting a budget first week in January, right? In some instances, and yet we were making so many adjustments and changes, the number didn't mean a lot. So we've really held back on that, and I feel much more confident now in the process, in that the number that's been established, there should not be tremendous fluctuation in relation to what's been presented if we come in with a fiscally responsible, reasonable budget, and especially if towns are communicating with the schools about, you know, what are some of the parameters. So I don't see any problem with adjustment of the number.
Mr. Chairman, I only see one regional FinCom meeting after this on this whole agenda. Is that correct?
We have a February 13th, and then the March 19th.
Oh, that's between the, that's the joint meeting between the school committee.
We put that on the calendar. That used to be a Saturday morning. It got very little representation from the towns. So we make that as a joint where the regional FinCom is invited, as well as the finance committee and the school and the board of selectmen are invited to that meeting.
Okay. Is the regional FinCom supposed to make a recommendation on February 13th?
No, on April 16th is where it was listed. Sorry, it wasn't clear enough. I merged the calendar.
April 16th, that recommendation is supposed to be a FinCom recommendation. Based on the current vote that the committee's taken, based on that timeline. So we'd have to move that up. Rich, to your point, or the group, if we were gonna move up the school committee vote, you'd also move up that recommendation, which could be done.
Okay, I had one other thing, Steve, sorry. I had mentioned to you that Thursday nights is very tough for me. 3 out of the 4 Thursday nights a month I have a meeting. And so I'm missing a meeting right now. And I've asked if possibility that 13th meeting could be put on the 11th instead of that Thursday. Or Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't care what day. Just as a suggestion, because I can't I can guarantee I can be here on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but I can't guarantee I'm not going to be here on a Thursday.
Why don't we take that up when we talk about our next meeting, if other members of the board, because these dates have been published out there since September, and I have no objection to changing it to the Tuesday. I just want to fit everyone's schedule, because that's always been the challenge, is a quorum, and the challenge of people even saying they're going to be here and then they don't come, and we can't have a meeting because we don't have a quorum. So that's what we want to try and keep and respect everyone's time on that.
I just want the opportunity to clarify my point with Charlie. My point wasn't that I expect the towns to have a budget for us, but it's the process that we meet, we have a number, the towns go back and forth, you guys have your own discussions. There's that whole process in between that tends to get lengthy. So I understand that you need a number from the school, trust me. It's just the whole process in between of the meeting and discussing what the towns are gonna be, and then, it's a back and forth between the schools and the towns. So if that could get shortened up, that would be great.
So what I'm hearing that, and I could speak from one person, and I'm sure Derek from the full school committee, that we're going to try and shoot for to have a budget approved by the time the public meeting happens on April 8th. Okay.
Well, if you made a recommendation on the 19th meeting, you'd have 2 opportunities to vote prior to that as a committee, under the current schedule, if you don't change anything else.
Any other questions or comments related to the process and the timeline?
The Freetown town meeting has been established as well?
Yes,
June?
it's by bylaw, the first Monday in June.
So that's that same date, is that right?
June 1st.
June 1st. How was it both June 1st?
Yes, it's the first Monday. It's the first Monday in
It's on the calendar.
It must be, right, because that's what Lakeville, so the same day?
Derek?
This speaks to Rich's point a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the recommendation on April 16th, you have to remember that there are elections.
Coming to both?
And that's gonna be after the elections, so you'll have some new members to public offices that you're gonna be making a recommendation on April 16th, and they probably are just gonna be new to this process. So to Rich's point, moving it up to at least have the people that have been through the whole budget process, at least for that, for this year would make much sense.
Rick was
Would make
bringing
a
up
lot
that
more
we bring up
sense.
a couple of meetings beforehand,
Yeah,
March 19th.
that's what I'm saying, to emphasize this point, there's
We can
elections that are
make
gonna
those
change that.
We can
Somebody
move
gonna be
up.
voting.
Steve, Derek, if Ashley can provide an updated document that maybe says the 19th, moves up the vote to the 8th. We now know both town meetings are June 1st.
Yep.
Hopefully, if we do all our due diligence, it won't matter if I'm in 2 places or not. We'll kind of hopefully have that.
And moves the vote to when?
A recommendation.
You still have elections, what I'm saying.
March 19th. is-
Oh, March 19th.
March 19th. March
Okay, I thought you said April 8th.
So, the last piece is the warrant articles. Just to where are we with the warrant articles as far as the date? Are we clear as far as what we need to present to the towns and by the which dates, what have you?
Yes, I received both of the memos from each town.
Okay. So will we, and we'll be able to, after the budget presentation, know if it's how many articles that will be presented, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions around warrant articles or anything like that? Okay. And then I know there's some confusion as far as what we have from the state. Everybody clear as far as what we have from the state and when we're expecting that? So we don't have anything for FY21 as of yet. The district heating HVAC study.
So I provided some information in your packet here, but the boiler study that we had is in the Google Drive, and also some more information on performance contracting. So I guess first I'll go through kind of the background and how we ended up where we are. Last year, during the budget process, we started conversations about needing to replace the boilers over at Gray's. During that time, we did not have the full specs of what we needed to propose for warrant articles, and therefore we didn't go forward with them. But instead, we had a study done, a boiler study for the campus. So that included the review of Gray's, the boiler room, the high school, the boiler room, and also the HVAC over at the middle school. Since then, the report was finalized. It was brought to our attention that the high school is in a greater need than Gray's to replace the boilers. With that being said, it's approximately $1 million what the boiler study had recommended for upgrades. Through conversations, we have been looking into performance contracting as a mechanism to fund this project. I know that there's been a lot of conversations about additional funding sources and things of that nature, such as green communities, and they're great alternatives, and we can have a more robust conversation about that. But to date, I wanted to let this committee know that we have put out an RFQ, or request for qualifications, to start the performance contracting conversation. What that means is the proposal went out today. Vendors will submit their qualifications that they are able to do this project, and then that will come in February, and we'll open the bids. And then they will, whoever we select, if we select a vendor, will come in and do an energy audit. They're going to do that energy audit at all 5 schools and show us where all the upgrades can be made. That will include boilers, system controls, windows, if there's any lighting, or if there's solar opportunities. It will be an all-inclusive study. From there, if you look at the next page, this is kind of an example of what they would provide us of all of the projects that we would be able to potentially upgrade. In this, you can see the schools that it would be for, the cost of the project, if there are any rebates, and what the cost savings would be, and then also the payback years for that. Once we receive this tool, we'll be able to go forward and decide what we wanted to do for upgrades. As I said, we're in need of boilers at the high school, so that would most likely be a phase 1 project that we'd be looking to do for July 1st. The reason we were looking at performance contracting is because it's no cost assessed to the member districts. That being said, we would finance it as the regional school district, and it would be paid for by the energy savings. That would be the reduction of the electricity, the reduction of the oil gallons consumed over the year, and that's guaranteed by the vendor. So we know what that cost savings would be, and we will know what the payout would look like over the life of the financing. So it's kind of a high-level overview. I asked Nate to kind of be behind everyone. He's been a part of a lot of the conversations that we've had, and we've talked about performance contracting, separate warrant articles to the town, also green community funding, things of that nature. We've been really doing our due diligence on this, and right now, going through the RFQ process, we're just going to gather more information. We're not set in stone that this is the way we want to go, but it is an alternative.
So the district has made a commitment with this piece for the audit, if in fact moving forward, but has not made a commitment on the direction. What I can share with you, and certainly Ashley referenced it, the heating systems in both here at the high school and the intermediate school are in immediate need. We thought in priority order Grace, when we started that high school, clearly. High school currently has 3 boilers, has had 3 boilers. How many are functioning? 1. We have 1. We have no backup. At the intermediate school?
We have 2 boilers,
2
but
boilers.
1 is functioning.
1 is functioning. Last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago,
Before Christmas.
I received a call to say we weren't going to have school at the intermediate school on Monday because there was no heat. The boiler was down. Director of Facilities, you can imagine, it was a little colorful conversation. Thankfully for the Director of Facilities, the conversation was on Saturday. I informed him we had 36 hours to figure out how we were going to have a heated building and our students, and thankfully for all involved. But I just kind of share that anecdotal story. That's the piece. We're basically pulling some things together at this point of the process. Those must be a priority. However the towns choose to support the systems, whatever direction ultimately FinCom recommends or the school department goes. Those are 2 areas that have to be addressed. We also have some issues with the ventilation system at the middle school, as it's been well documented, or at least through the media, in relation to air quality to address as well, which will obviously come in that audit. And that's not even having conversations about the 2 town buildings, right? The Assawamsett, which we've done a lot of things to, and certainly Freetown. So I just want to kind of give you that backdrop. This is not something we're just trying to tweaking upgrade. We're trying to we are basically trying to make sure we get through this winter and provide the necessary, keep the systems functioning. It's not doom and gloom, honestly. We're able to maintain programs. That was an example, a real life example. That could be the case. And so, we're going to kind of work each day as I check off in January and February. I'm very happy, right, as we move hopefully towards springtime. But I think we've done our due diligence. I was not, and Ashley, you could speak to this. I can be quite candid. I was not sold that performance contract was the way to go initially. Both the previous business manager and I met multiple years ago and turned them away because we didn't think it made sense at the time. I'm really rethinking that when I look at the sustainability and whether these towns can support the projects and the money that we need to put forward. And it's a concern I have, quite frankly. I'm not just talking about for this year and this one project or 2 in systems, but the significant work. I think people underestimate the campus. And I know we think we do a pretty good job, right? We have 23 acres. People pull up to this campus. I had someone visit me today who is not familiar and was really impressed by the 3 schools and how they look and the maintain, but they're getting old, right? They're when you look at 20, 25 years in some of these systems and so forth. And we're pleased, and I know taking a little bit of Ashley's thunder, she's going to talk about some of the green communities and some of the work. We've done some significant work and really made some real nice progress. But we feel we can do both. Yeah, we don't think it has to be an either or. And so I know that Ashley, through the chair, wanted to make sure that the regional FinCom was aware of kind of what we're doing to date. She's providing these same input, these same updates to the school committee. We'll do so next Wednesday at our school committee meeting. Be happy to answer any questions.
So the full school committee voted to put the RFQ out.
Yeah.
That is related to this. The school committee voted to fund the HVAC study that was done at Grace for that.
All 3 campuses.
Yeah, all 3 schools in there. So that was part of this year's budget. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Right. The other thing that we approved is move forward with the RFQ for this. This is where we need to get more details, what have you. The only, I'll say, item that we would potentially be on the hook for would be is if we move forward with selection of a vendor and they come in and do the audit. If we come in and we get the audit and they outline where all the savings are and we choose not to go with them, we would have to pay, what is it,
7 cents a square foot, but about $42,000.
Yeah, so it's $42,000 across all 5 schools if they come in and do the audit, what have you, and we choose not to move forward with that. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind from a budgetary perspective, but obviously if we move forward with the vendor, that gets rolled into the project costs in that case. I'll open up to questions for Rick, Ashley, anybody.
Certainly, Well, tonight I represent the energy group, so our plan was to take we'll call it the vendor survey, where they come up with the cost of the project and the cost savings, and that's the $42,000 number I think you're talking about. And so what the Energy Committee wants to do is obviously get those numbers, work collaboratively with the schools, but to immediately look at that and evaluate that, and then report back to the school finance committee, school committee, whatever, with some of their recommendations. Because the concern from the energy group is that we received $902,000 worth of grants to date with the green energy group, and that once you award a performance contract to whomever, generally they take over the spot, generally the spot that the Green Energy Committee would be getting grants for. So there's a couple of things that could happen, but we want to look at the numbers first. But what would happen is the $1 million worth of future grants, because we believe we'll get at least 4 more grant cycles at $250,000 from the Lakeville side. We're not addressing the Freetown side at this point. And so that would be sidelined most likely. So that we would be giving up the grant opportunities for the low-hanging fruits. So the 233 you got, or the 223, 390 that you just got for Aponequid, that may not repeat easily. So we're concerned that the whole grant availability could disappear. And that's a kind of a lost opportunity that we would have. But the real lost opportunity is the savings that you could get, which would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you were able to do it through towns paying their way and a combination of energy grants, if you had a $403,000 saving, that comes back to the schools, comes back into your budget process. If you do a performance grant, that money stays with whoever you gave the contract to. So we want to really evaluate the lost opportunity of grants, but the lost opportunity of money coming back to the schools. It always sounds somewhat easy to do a performance grant because you're not putting any money out. And I guess I have to go back and ask, are you really putting money out? Or is the awarded company, they're putting all the money out?
Right, so we'll finance it.
Why would you finance anything? Aren't they financing it?
So we have to finance it to pay it. We have to finance it to pay it to begin with, and then the energy savings that we receive year over year would go to pay that finance off.
Right, and certainly
so
performance contract people don't like green communities because they somewhat push them out. We want the savings to come back to the citizens and back to the schools. The savings that you have are coming back, really not coming back, you're just paying off what you borrow.
Right, so at the end of the day, in performance contracting, it would be a net zero. So we wouldn't be asking the townspeople for any cash outlay, but there would also not be a savings in our operating budget. So that's where it is there. For the green communities, we are very open to continuing the process with green communities. And as doing this audit here, it allows us in Lakeville, with your generosity, to work with the other schools, to start working at Grays or start working at the middle school, because that energy audit complies with the grant requirements.
Right, we have, that's what we have to go back and look at. 100%. Generally, you give up that opportunity to do that, because all of the lighting, the HVAC, all of the motors, all of those types of things are generally done by those performance people. So I guess I would wait until that comes and then looks at their contracts.
But John, the performance, I do hear what you're saying. We're not, so I think you can, I believe the entity, the district, and represent the towns can select And I don't think it has to be an either or piece, and I would disagree. I think we have to look and examine this closely.
So obviously they would want it, right, performance contracting.
They want to do it all, I would agree with you there.
They want it.
But there's two concerns here, right? There's the two funding components, right? But the big piece is the timeline, right? So, and if we look at the high school, that's something that has to be done over the summer. That project has to start in the spring as far as all the planning and everything like that. So I wholeheartedly agree of having the energy group review that, but you also have to look at the timeline too. So what is the response? So it may not be something in year 1, but it may be something in year 2, 3, or 4 as you go through that. The other piece is there are certain things that the Green Community can't cover, such as the big ticket items such as the boiler, right? So that's my understanding, and I'm seeing a lot of shaking of heads and agreement.
Well, maybe Nate can speak to that.
Yeah,
so really, we want to come back to you as quickly as we can after that vendor cost, projected savings. But can you speak to the timeline or not?
Yeah, I can speak to the timeline a little bit and just a general understanding of how the Green Communities work. The Green Communities program is a competitive grant round. They typically work off of a principle of 10-year return on investment. That's what makes it competitive. So to Steve's point with boiler replacement, because it's a $600,000 to $800,000 project, we only have $250,000 available annually. So we could partially subsidize a larger project like that, just not pay it in total. Timeline-wise, we have to finish this current grant up in report. The final report has to be in by February 2nd. The new grant round will be in March. They won't announce that until probably August. So as far as the boilers go, I don't think the timeline favors having boiler replacement through the grants. But to John's point, if we get that menu, so to speak, of projects, we can incorporate those audits directly into our Green Communities grant, which makes them far more efficient and easier for the town to write. So, if we have a chance to look at them and pick the stuff with that 10-year return on investment, I think we can get the funding for it. So I think it's not an either or, it's going to be a combination of both, would be the most advantageous to the school district and both towns.
Right. So we do want to come back as quickly as we can once you get those numbers.
Sure.
And we know that you'd be on the hook for the 40, we had that conversation before, you'd be on the hook for the $42,000 if you don't award it.
Don't do it.
But it is important. I'd rather see the savings, if possible, to come back through the school system. So we'll see.
Right.
And I don't think anyone disagrees with that. No. I think we're under a time crunch. So once we get these responses back, the question that we're going to come back to you is, what's your turnaround time? Because we have a summer timeline associated with this. This is where we can't hold up that process if everyone agrees that that's the best way to go down there. The other big piece I just want to add to this that was, at least from Derek I's perspective, and Nate's been involved in the meeting, is they own the maintenance, right? So they are incentivized to make sure that the equipment is running optimally. So, which even from the director of facilities was a big item for that. Obviously, from some of the low-hanging fruit, that's okay, but once you get to the big ticket items, the fact that they would own that is something that very interesting from us, from our perspective there.
Right. But do remember, we all know that they make their money based on the savings. Yep. And I'd rather see it come back to the schools, if at all possible.
I don't think we disagree. The question goes back to the town.
Well,
You've seen the initial price tag.
There's a timeline, and certainly, I think through the audit, it was a surprise that the high school boiler was in the shape that it was. So, but you have a backup for that, I believe.
We have one that's operating right now.
Yeah, but you have a backup availability if a boiler goes down. Is that
we do not.
Correct?
We do not.
Yeah, so just the two boilers, so just cost-wise, just to keep in mind, we're talking about $1.3 million.
For two.
For two.
For both schools.
For both schools.
Yeah. It's not what I consider to be a lot of money as long as we don't give up the other opportunities. But let's see. Let's get the numbers. We won't take a long time It might take a couple of weeks, but we can't take a long time to come back. So that would be what the Energy Committee would want to see.
I think some of this has to flow into the discussion of what's palatable and affordable to the towns. I mean, it all sounds good. We want the money to stay in the school, but who's gonna front the money to pay for these projects? That's kind of how this kind of came about was, hey, let's make this an option and put it on the table because we don't have many options.
But 1.3 and say half of it's Lakeville, 60% is Lakeville, but say it's half. That's not a lot of money. People say, oh, well.
I don't usually hear you say that.
I was just going to say, I hope that's the same mentality.
You said 1.3 wasn't bad tonight.
It's not a lot of money because the savings
This is going to be a good year, 2020.
you're going to have will be monumental.
Yeah.
Trust me. So you have to wait to see that savings. You know, the savings is going to be paid back through the performance contract. They can be paid back to the towns, if you will, the same.
I think we would agree from a school perspective.
Let's look at the savings is what's really going to be the ticket item.
And it is the sustainability of it.
Right.
And it's not just, it's the timing. So year one, it's the timing, and that's where the biggest, and the town doesn't say that we can fund it. The issue is going to be the project needs to go down.
I'm not speaking for the town, but it's one boiler in the high school for $600,000. And we have half that.
Let me just open
We
up.
have half the payment.
Any other questions before I come back to Derek?
I just had one quick one for Ashley. The $42,000 audit, you said we get it back if we go with the performance contract?
It gets rolled in.
All right, and that's even if we sever it and we only go for the boilers, we still get that back? It doesn't need to be the full package?
No, and so what they're gonna do in this sheet right here, this menu option.
Yep.
We can pick one item.
Okay.
It rolls right
Just
into
wanted to
there.
clarify.
And they'll just roll that cost into that one
And
item.
then on top of it
We're
too.
still paying for it. It's just.
Yeah.
Of course.
Over
Of
20
course.
years.
I'm just, worried that we get knocked with it
The
again.
ideal is that the boilers get done through the performance contract and the green communities continue to get the low hanging fruit.
Right, such as lighting,
That's the
that's
ideal.
what I envision
That's
is the boilers
ideal.
have to be done.
That's the ideal, so we need to look at those.
And I think that's the scenario that would be looked at closely. I agree with you. I think that would be the home run of this whole thing. Is there do we have any, John alluded to the fact that, do we have any evidence that with performance contracting, that people don't get green communities grants, or do we have, or likewise, do they?
Oh, no, they do.
Okay, they do.
Yeah, they do.
So there is examples out there that they do get it with.
I do think that what happens, in fairness, in truth, I do think communities maybe, and I'm saying other communities, are less aggressive to pursue them because they then rely on that, and obviously the vendors want you to rely on that piece. But it's certainly, we have a couple of surrounding communities that have taken full advantage of this, that we did our research on, and it's been successful. But I also wouldn't mirror that. I think it doesn't have to be an either or. There are districts that's become that though, which is a concern we'd have to all look at.
That's the part we want to look at.
I think it's gotta have to be some hybrid in my mind, but.
That would work.
Yeah, question on the financing mechanism. Let's talk about that. So the financing the savings are gonna be used to pay the financing. But we heard that in a lot of cases, the savings are greater than that. So what happens with the greater than? Because you're talking about a net zero. Does that money come back to the school?
So it's.
Because they're gonna guarantee the savings, but we could get savings greater than what they're.
100%. So the savings are in our utility line. So I don't have to pay as much for the electric.
Exactly.
I don't have to pay as much for,
So it's not a net zero in essence. In some instances, if the savings end up being greater,
Yes.
the district's gonna
make reductions.
It's not a net negative.
Right.
Right. And if they don't meet their guarantee, they're supposed to cut the check for the financing portion of it.
They always meet their contract.
Oh, absolutely.
It's sandbagged enough.
Any other question by?
Yeah, I'm one of the other selectmen, and John, as far as the grants are concerned, we got the town of Lakeville side too. It's not just a performance having to do with the region. It was nice of the town to give them 223 this past year to do a lot of things. There's needs on the town side too, so I don't see how we can say we're going to give $250,000, going forward for the next couple of years without understanding some of the requirements on the town side.
Right, well, they've been looked at too. The Energy Committee the bulk of the awards have gone to the town already. We already did the towns, and we picked a lot of that low-hanging fruit. So we're coming now to the schools.
But there is other stuff that needs to be done in the town, too.
No, right, but we couldn't come up with a $250,000 number, as an example.
If you'd like me to speak to
Yeah.
that, I certainly can. Just real briefly, we did allocate the first 3 large grant amounts into the municipal buildings. I can probably come up with somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 worth of municipal projects, town-owned projects, that will still meet the standard of the 10-year return on investment. But as far as moving forward, unless DOER changes the structure in which they award the grants, we'll probably be pretty much done. So it'll be, use it or lose it scenario.
Right. And I guess one final question might be, where does Freetown stand on green energy grants, green energy approval?
Actually, we have a grant from Serped to begin the process of exploring becoming a green community. I guess several years ago, it was presented at town meeting and there were issues with it and it got rejected. So I'm meeting actually the week after next with the Green Community Coordinator and a representative from Serped to talk about becoming a green community and the things we need to do to put things in line to become that hopefully in the fall. That's a goal at least.
Right, right, and certainly
we
encourage you to do that because you have your own municipal buildings.
Absolutely.
So just to bring it back
and
here.
I've been actually bragging on what you guys have been doing, saying how much money you're getting, and we should be getting that money also, you know.
All right. Did you have any more questions?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Any other questions on the timeline that Ashley has put together as far as next steps or the monies that have been put out by the district or the expectation of what we have before next step? All right, seeing none. Rick, I know you have to duck out. You have another commitment here at the school, but
I'll stay through this. We have the concert. I can get there.
yeah,
So.
feel free to jump out if you need to for that. Facility maintenance projects update.
Just very quickly, the MSBA core program for the 2019 Statement of Interest, we did not get invited to move on to the next round. We did have a site visit where district administration was there as well as Nate to walk through with MSBA. The MSBA's core and accelerated program for 2020 is open. The accelerated program will close on February 14th. We're in conversations right now if we should be applying for anything. However, with the RFQ going out and the potential for the audit, we might hold back in 2020 and then look to do it in 2021. Just to update the committee, I wanted to let you know that we have closed out the Safer Schools and Communities grant.
Can I ask a question on that, please?
Yep, go ahead.
Is there a reason why nothing's being submitted for Assawamsa?
For which program?
For the accelerated program?
That was what I was just talking about with the energy audit coming out and just...
I'm talking about windows.
Yeah, so we were considering holding off for 2020 with all of the audit and everything else that's going on with the performance contracting to receive that information and then pursue it in FY21.
Well, you're assuming that that's going to be available in 2021. It may not be.
The accelerated program?
Yes, for these particular items.
That is true. It has been consistent for the last few years, and the governor's been funding it more. More money is going towards the program, so I feel comfortable that it will be still in place in FY21.
We certainly were disappointed that that didn't get applied for last year. I don't see why, even though you're doing current energy audits, why you would not do that. We felt the school was certainly old enough and may meet the criteria to get that grant for the windows that we can't get under the green community because of there's no payback, if you will.
We applied for the core program last year.
No, I know that.
For the full renovation.
Right, but we didn't want you to, well, we wanted you to go after the windows. And that was conveyed many times, so I don't see why we want to skip it this year.
So the discussion, and we still certainly have that opportunity. We have 1 month prior to that. We have a school committee meeting next week where we could accomplish that. The reservation was, quite candidly, the MSBA is not funding the entire project, so it would require a vote and a support from the town matching, right? I think at best case we're probably going to see about a 50-50. I don't disagree. The windows are a project that needs to get done. I know Ashley would agree as well.
Okay.
We just were so.
Okay.
So I think we feel at this point after 3 years of the general program that we're not don't have any interest to do that at this stage.
Okay.
I think there is agreement that if we were going to pursue a statement of interest, it should be through the accelerated. The question is, do we do that in 2020 or do we wait to 2021?
Okay.
To Rich's point, we certainly run the risk, although it's been pretty consistent that program exists.
Okay.
I'll be sure that Ashley and I had that conversation with the board next week. I still think we have time to do the accelerated piece to there if we were going to.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
No, it's.
I think we ought to pursue it. It's been too long. The windows should be replaced years ago. And I know they didn't have some of those programs actually at the time.
Yeah, again, I think part of our concern is with the audit reflecting that as well. That could be a project there's no cost to the town of Lakeville if it's part of performance.
Yeah.
Because the accelerated program would still have a cost to the town.
Correct. Significant cost. So, but no one's debating at all the need.
Yep.
Not at all. Long overdue. So that's the only question mark. Do we submit that simultaneously with the audit going on and also looking at green communities? And does that make sense? Or do we push that out yet? To Rich's point,
The
which is a
green
fair one.
communities would never be able to get
To
that
do that,
authorization.
So it would be strictly through performance contracting potentially or going out and asking the town to support the town of Lakeville 50% of a project.
So are we hearing correctly that the town of Lakeville would like for us to pursue the accelerated grant this term with the notion that if it falls through, they would have to fund 50% of the grant?
I don't know the exact cost, but what is the exact cost roughly?
I want to say it was close to $2 million.
For the windows? No way.
Again, don't quote me on that. I just have to go back.
It was on the Camp Joseph McKee hold up.
To see. My colleagues.
Overall cost was over $1 million.
Right.
It was up
Right.
1.2, 1.3 million.
I think so. And if you have any experience.
If we had to come up with 50% of that, I'll say you can skip it.
And then I would say, in fairness to the project, don't quote me on the number, the cost of window projects historically in schools ends up going up significantly higher in buildings that age. There's significant costs that are found beyond that.
If we had to come up with $500,000, I would pay it. My suggestion.
But you would have to take action, just so the board is aware.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen in Lakeville would have to vote the statement of interest. Remember, just as you did the others, that you support us moving it forward anyways.
So you think it's still 50-50, whether it's 60-40, 50-50?
I think it's a higher rate than that, quite frankly. I
Okay,
think it's a
because
higher median,
it's not a fixed
higher
asset
local.
building. Right,
It's
okay.
not.
I would, if you could maybe just give us the percentage, that would make the decision easy maybe.
And then you could take formal action or not, or
Yeah.
choose not to.
Right.
Okay.
We can do that.
Any other questions on the accelerated program?
Back to the Safer School Communities grant, I'm closing that out currently and waiting to get our reimbursement for Q2. That was to install security cameras at 4 out of 5 schools. That was middle school grades, AES and FES. This grant actually covered the warrant article that we requested from Freetown last year, so the only cost that Freetown was actually going to be paying were the keys. Dave and I talked about that today. It also installed the strike pads at AES, so that was the only building that didn't have it, and now our fobs are universal across the district. So it just increased the security overall. It's a great feature that we have. We will be doing more phases in the future, but right now we have pretty good coverage across the entire district.
In just a short amount of time, multi-years, both towns have been incredibly supportive, working with the police departments and fire. I'm thrilled. If you looked at where our schools were at from a security perspective 3 or 4 years ago, and with these latest upgrades, I think both police chiefs would tell you, we are in a much better place in relation to where we need to be and moving forward. So thank you. And this was just another example of that. We can actually look at and really accelerate some of the process as it relates to future needs too.
And the final part of this report is the Green Communities Grant. The upgrades here at the high school are underway. We right now are having lights installed in the central office. We had the weather stripping done and the insulation put in into the soffit joints. It's really made a change. We can feel it with the air coming in through the exterior doors. That's no longer happening. The teachers are very happy. We had a conversation here today with the high school faculty, and they can see the changes at the school. So we are very thankful to Lakeville for allocating those funds to us for this year.
So did anyone ask Freetown for this, their 223? No, I'm only saying we didn't as part of that, but certainly that's the missed opportunity that you have with the green, being the green community. You would have got that same grant. Okay.
Well, I think hopefully this fall will be
sort of preaching to the choir here. I'm hoping that we're going to actually be able to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions on the facility update on the maintenance project?
Either town, any buildings, anything you hear? That would be a good one.
We got a new driveway for you now.
Oh,
yes.
Way ahead of you.
There were pictures in the last meeting.
Any other business to come before this meeting? Seeing none. The next meeting is February 13th. I say Tuesday, but actually Tuesday is February 11th.
Can we look at the 12th?
Yeah. Seeing the 11th, how about February 12th? Primarily for the committee members, everyone.
We're not here, but without the Chapter 70 and without the transportation number bump in there, you don't really know where you are anyway. So I mean, you can have the meeting, but it's really
next week. Well, we'll have that information by then.
Yeah.
You'll have that for the 11th?
Yes.
For the
February 12th.
The FY21 budget will be released at that point.
The 11th is
Okay.
better, but will we be keeping the same time for the 12th?
I'd like to keep it at 6:30, yeah.
6:30, okay. Either date.
I won't be able to be here.
On the 11th?
Yeah.
Or the 12th.
Or 12th.
No, I'll be out of state.
So you have...
The 13th?
Yes.
Okay, I'll skip another meeting, but the only one.
Well, we can...
I'll be out of state the whole month.
Well,
why can't we do the 12th, though? Did I...
No, he said he's out of town.
No.
Well, either way.
I might be out of state for the whole month.
So it makes no difference what date.
Right.
I know if it's John,
Exactly.
what date we select.
Yeah.
I could do the 11th. Just the business manager has jury duty, unfortunately, in Worcester, so on the 11th. So concern is if somebody can swing that and work that out. I probably shouldn't say that. Camo, help me out here.
We can get it delayed, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah. But you could do the 12th, right? We have the 12th here. I know that.
I'll do the trial. I'll be here for
Why don't we put it for Wednesday, the 12th at 6:30? I didn't look over there. Do you have any issue with that? All right, so next meeting is Wednesday, February 12th, 6:30.
Just to let everyone know, the budget books will be available on February 5th at the meeting if you want to attend the meeting. If not, I will bring them over to the town halls on the 6th.
It's 7:29. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go on the notion passes unanimously.